Hey guys, Triple B here. We just had the first official week of Season 1 of the budget build battle format over on Limitless. So we're going to be holding seasons now, every 3 months. 3 sets. Tonight we're up to the first one and we'll be going over the top 8 deck lists of that. If you're not familiar with the budget build format though, I'll break it down quickly for you. Effectively, it's just a no rule box format, so no Radiants, no A-Specs, no Vs, no EXs, all about the single prize Pokemon, and there is a slight limitation on your deck building, as you can only have 2 copies of a card with the same name. That applies to special energies, trainer cards, and Pokemon. Basic Pokemon, there's a slight exception though, as if it evolves into a stage 1, you can have up to 1 extra copy of the basic, and if it evolves into a stage 2 in your deck, you can have up to 2 extra copies of the basic. So effectively, you can run a 4-2-2 evolution line or a 4-0-1 evolution line if you want. Not too sure where that'll come up, but you never know. But let's jump into the deck list. So tonight we did have 13 people participating in the tournament, so not an amazing tournament, but still pretty good to get an understanding of the format with a lot of unique deck lists making it into the cut. In top 8 though, we have Dudsta, who ran an Espathra list. Espathra has an ability stance that when you evolve up into it, you get to prevent all damage and effects done to it from your opponent's Pokemon on their following turn. So if they're trying to hit you, you just go like, nah, I'm invincible. The attack on here doing 70 base damage, but 70 more if you have the supporter card Tulip in your discard pile, which, taking a look at this list, where is it? There it is. I'm like, is it not in here? No, I'm just blind. It's in here. So with the 2 copy limitation, just finding it can be a little bit tricky, but once you get it in there, your Espathra becomes a pretty solid attacker that's effectively invincible half the time. Having Professor Turo to scoop it up too, so you evolve, you're invincible, only for 1 turn, then you just Turo it, scoop it up, go into a fresh one, evolve that, it's invincible, reset another one, following turn, it's invincible. It's a nice loop to be able to get into. Having 2 psychic energy for the attack cost though, you do have Xatu to help accelerate energy to it while it's on the bench, as well as providing some draw power to you. And for secondary attackers, you have Monkey Dory, who can charge up with a psychic and ideally a dark energy to be able to use Adrena Brain, which lets you move 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon onto your opponent's Pokemon. So pretty solid guy to have in there, as well as Mind Bend doing 60 damage and confusing your opponent's active. With switch cards being so limited in the format, confusion can be pretty helpful because it might just buy you a turn, right? Your opponent has to flip a coin, maybe they hit themselves, and Monkey Dory can just mess them up, getting some monkey business into them. Fluttermane also making an appearance in the list. When it's in the active, shutting off your opponent's active Pokemon's ability can be really helpful if you're paired to something like Okidogi, who has extra health if it has a dark energy attached. While you're hitting it for weakness, you can shred through it, which is really nice, as well as helping out into decks like Lost Box, where they want to have a Comfey or Cramorant in the active with an ability, making it so they can get their deck online or declare some pretty solid attacks into you. And Fluttermane just goes, nah, that's good, you do nothing now, while also being able to attack them with Hex Hurl, doing 90 damage and putting 2 damage counters onto one of their bench Pokemon. Charge it up with Xatu and you can get it online pretty effectively. Rest of the cards in the list I feel like kind of speak for themselves, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments down below. In 7th place, we see Barraskewda, who ran a Baxcalibur box. So Baxcalibur's super cold ability lets you attach as many basic water energy from your hand to your Pokemon in any way that you'd like. Having attackers like Iron Bundle, who not only has Hyper Blower, moving your opponent's active Pokemon to the bench, making them pick something new into the active, but also having the attack Refrigerated Stream, doing 80 base damage, and making it so if the defending Pokemon's an evolution, it can't attack during your opponent's next turn. This can be really useful into evolution-dependent decks, especially if they only have 1 attacker set up. It basically just goes, you can't hit me, and with Switch being limited, it's not like they can easily pivot out and reset themselves. Kyogre making an appearance as well, having Dynamic Wave, which for 4 energy can do 180 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. It can be in the active or snipe their bench, which can be a great way to take off potentially their draw engine like Bibarel, which we're also running in the list, or just a benched pre-evolution Pokemon they're trying to get set up. It does bounce 3 energy attached to it back into your hand, meaning Baxcalibur can just re-accelerate it onto another attacker for the following turn. Slowbro also making an appearance in the deck, having Twilight Inspiration. You can only use this if your opponent has exactly 1 prize card remaining, which in a single prize format, it happens pretty much every game unless they're taking multiple prizes in one go, but you're going to be able to take 2 prizes. So if you're struggling a little bit in the prize race, Slowbro can help you catch up. Squovit being in here for the Bibarel draw engine, as well as the Dunsparce. pretty aggressive draw power with abilities in here. Kind of respect it. A little bit thin on the attacking line though, so I would be interested to know the logic on that. I've previously tried a Excalibur box and tried Veluza in the deck, which has Hydro Pump, scaling the amount of damage it does based on the amount of water energy attached to it, and when it's knocked out, you move 2 water energy from it onto one of your bench Pokemon, so it could be a great inclusion for the list, just in case you want to try it for yourself. But overall, the deck does look pretty solid, so respect it. In 6th place, we're seeing MWDC, who piloted a Pheasantipity Monkey Dory Xatu box. I love this deck. You guys have been around the channel for a while. You've probably seen me pilot this before as well. Pheasantipity having Adrena Pheromone. If you have a dark energy attached to this, when your opponent tries to attack you, you flip a coin. If it's heads, you just ignore the damage. The attack on here, Energy Feather, scales by 30 damage for every energy you have attached to this Pokemon. So having Xatu, which can help accelerate energy onto this, it's pretty solid. Having Power Glass, which lets you get an energy from your discard pile and pop it onto Pheasantipity at the end of your turn, not too bad. It means if you have a dark energy in your discard pile, you just go, cool, Power Glass, get it back at the end of my turn, going into my opponent's turn. If they try and attack, I get to flip a coin. Solid combo. Monkey Dory, we've talked about it before. Having the Xatu to charge it up for the potential confusion can be pretty cheeky. And Fluttermane to help out for the Lost Box or Okidogi matchup. Tatsugiri also making an appearance in here makes for a great pivot option. You have Rescue Board, which reduces the retreat cost of a Pokemon it's attached to by 1. Tatsugiri has retreat cost of 1, effectively meaning it has free retreat. Xatu can only accelerate psychic energy to your bench Pokemon, so it's just one of those situations of something gets knocked out, chuck Tatsu into the active, give it a Rescue Board, accelerate energy onto a new Pheasantipity, get it going, and then pivot into it. Tatsu's Attract Customers ability also adding amazing consistency to the deck, looking at the top 6 cards of your deck and grabbing a supporter card you find there to pop it right into your hand. You have some really great supporters in here, Research, an Iono for draw power and consistency, Tulip to get your Psychic Pokemon or basic Psychic energy back from your discard pile and back into your hand. So Pheasantipity goes down, just grab it, grab 3 Psychic energy, attach 1 for turn, use Xatu to rush out the other 2, like have 2 of these in play and you're in a really good spot. And yeah, the rest of the cards I feel like are kind of just staples for the format. Arven getting you a item card as well as tool can be a great way to get into Buddy Buddy Poffin and Evolution TM to get your Xatus out very quickly. Crispin also being a great addition for the deck, searching your deck for 2 basic energies of different types. Grab yourself a Psychic and a Dark energy, one gets attached to your Pokemon, being the Pheasantipity, the other goes to your hand and you still have your attachment for turn, so gets attached to the Pheasantipity. Means if you're going second, you can be attacking on the first turn, doing 60 damage and potentially being invincible. If your opponent flips a coin, they get heads, or you flip a coin when your opponent attacks you, you get heads, you ignore that damage. So you could take out pre-evolutions while they can potentially just do nothing into you on the following turn. So honestly, I love this deck. Another great inclusion it has is Moonlit Hill, which allows you to discard a Psychic energy from your hand in order to heal 30 damage from each of your Pokemon. It's a great way to help into spread decks, especially with things like Frostlass running around in the format. Between turns, all your guys with abilities take 10 damage for each Frostlass. Xatu, Tatsu, Manaphy, Fluttermane, Monkey Dory, Pheasantipity all have abilities, so this gives you a great way to respond into it. Just heal off 30, use Monkey Dory, move 30 more damage counters off one of your guys onto them. You're in a really good spot. And honestly, love this list. And MW, appreciate you coming by the tournament, man. I know I've seen you in my streams multiple times, but I think this is the first time you've been able to participate. So yeah, respect it and hope to see you again. In 4th place, we had Sneaky Old Crab. 4th place, 5th place. I think it's 4th place. But he's running a Dodrio, Steelix, Aggron, basically hurt yourself, then hurt your opponent kind of deck. Aggron for 1 Steel Energy has Angry Slam, does 50 damage for each of your damaged Pokemon in play. So kind of like Zoroark V-Star, but on a stage 2 single prize Pokemon, just for 1 energy. Love it. Having Steelix that also has an attack for 1 Steel Energy. Nice little theme there. Does 130 damage and does 30 damage to each of your bench Pokemon. So a great pre-attack before going into Aggron. You do this, you damage your bench, then he's just like, yeah, I can do 100 or 250 or 300 if he's damaged and everything on the bench is damaged too. So yeah, a little intimidating. And Dodrio also having an ability to damage itself while drawing a card and scaling up its own damage. So Steelix hurts him. He's going to do 90 more damage after Steelix hits it, uses its ability, does 120 damage, well 130 because the base of 10 for 1 energy. Definitely a solid attacking option to go into. With spread being around in the format though, kind of a risky play, but yeah, making it into the top 8, he's clearly found a way to kind of pilot himself around those matchups. Having Monkey Dory can definitely help, being able to use the Luminous energy as the dark energy, or theoretically the psychic to make him an attacker, as well as the dark energy to help out. So yeah, if they're ever in a situation where it's like, might have too many damage counters out, or I need a little bit more damage on my opponent's active to get the knockout, Monkey Dory can come in clutch for that. Rest of the deck though, I feel like is pretty straightforward stuff. Clavel, I think this is the first time we've seen it tonight. You search your deck for 3 basic Pokemon with 120 HP or less, reveal them, pop them into your hand. It's just a great way to get into your, well, your Monkey Dories, your Aerons, your Onix, and your Doduos. Onix obviously being a little bit too big for Buddy Poffin. About almost twice as much HP as it allows, but yeah, really cool deck. And then in 4th place, we're gonna say 4th place. 4th or 3rd. I lost count. Apologies. But yeah, we're seeing a Lost Box Palafin deck piloted by Vulcan Atlas. So Palafin having Jet Punch, 30 damage to the active and 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Justice Kick though being the real selling feature of this. It does 210 damage, but only if it moved from the bench to the active spot. So it can be a really big threat to go into your opponents. The first attack though, Jet Punch, can be really useful to set up numbers for your Cramorants to finish things off, because it's like do 30 to the active, if they have 140 HP, he comes up, finishes the other 110, or softens things up for Sableye to then later just go, here's some damage counters, just finish that thing off, etc. Right? They've got like 60 HP or 70 HP basics on their bench. Putting 30 then just means Sableye puts 4 on them. He has another 8 that he can put on another pre-evolution thing. You're in a good way. And then just kind of standard Lost Box stuff. Only being able to have 2 Comfey though, they did also include Tatsugiri just as a way to help them find their Colress's experiments, and Ditto's also a great inclusion to have since it can use Transformative Start on the first turn of the game when it's in the active and swap with another basic Pokemon in your deck, basically being a 3rd copy of Comfey for your list, so respect it. For other ways to get things into the Lost Zone though, they've got the Colress, but they've also got Lost Vacuum? Oh, do they not have Lost Vacuum? Am I blind? No Lost Vacuum. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. All right, well, honestly, solid run. Yeah, seems like a kind of straightforward. I've got my Lost Zone bit, I've got my Palafin bit, so yeah, I love it. In 3rd place, we've got Jamjar, who piloted a Ancient Box list. So we've got Koraidon with Primordial Beatdown. You do 30 damage for each of your Ancient Pokemon in play, so with a full board of Ancient Pokemon, you can get up to 180 for just 2 energy on it. You've got Roaring Moon doing 70 base damage, but then 10 more damage for each of your Ancient cards in the discard pile, which is really solid. So of course, you want just a bunch of things that say Ancient on here. Root Bonnet says Ancient. It also has an ability, Toxic Powder, that if it has an Ancient Booster energy capsule attached to it, you can make both Pokemon poisoned, yours and your opponent. So it can be a good way to kind of modify some damage, but for the most part, it says Ancient and it's, yeah, it can go in the bin. Great Tusk being in here as well. Having Land Collapse, you get to discard the top card of your opponent's deck, but if you played an Ancient Supporter card from your hand this turn, discard 3 more. So later in the game, when you can see your opponent's deck is quite thin, this could be a great way to steal some matchups. Also, the fact that you're limited to 2 copies of a card with the same name, mill is kind of scary. Like if you could take out your opponent's rare candy in their stage 2 dependent deck, they're in a bad way, or mill through their supporters, or yeah, just their key cards. Yeah, not a bad shout. Sandy Shock's in here as another attacking option. Walking Wake, this is just in here because it says Ancient. Let's be real. You're never attacking with Walking Wake. You don't even have any water energy. Flutter Mane in here though, same reasons as we've seen in the other list, and then Tatsugiri, same goes for that. The Dunsparce being a great draw option. Runaway draw. You can just bounce it back into your deck, draw 3 cards, and our regular Dunsparce, just a free retreating option that can be really good. An interesting inclusion we haven't seen before is the Pelipper line. So Heresy makes it so when you evolve into this, you can search your deck for a supporter card, or you can search your discard pile for a supporter card and pop it into your hand. You're very dependent on using Professor Sada to get your attackers charged up, getting an energy or 2 energy from your discard pile and attaching them to 2 different ancient Pokemon in play. So just being able to go Pelipper, find this, great, or Pelipper, recover this, also great. Yeah, kind of love it. Explorer's Guidance, another ancient supporter. Easy include, helping you just draw through your deck. And then, yeah, the rest of the deck, I feel like is pretty straightforward for you guys. Second place, we have Triple. Well, that's me. I played kind of like a cold comeback deck is what I called it. So Frostlass, between turns, you're putting a damage counter on every Pokemon that has an ability. Having some Pokemon of your own with abilities like Monkey Dory means I can damage him, then move those damage counters onto the opponent, while also softening up their targets and putting them in a very tight spot. Bibarel as a draw engine, having an ability though, so you do need to be using the Monkey Dory to kind of help heal it, but also being a great way to just go, hey, Bibarel's a draw engine, and also a way for me to power up damage counters to hand off to the opponent. Manaphy for some bench protection, and Iron Bundle just for the Hyper Blower, being able to bounce your opponent's active Pokemon to the bench. You're going to be in a lot of situations where you kind of just want them not to have their main attacker sat in the active, and then you're just slowly chipping away on their board, using Monkey Dory to give away your damage counters and Frostlass to take out their benched ability Pokemon, since we're kind of a spread deck. Hisuian Braviary has Eerie Cry. You get to put 3 damage counters on each of your opponent's Pokemon that has any damage counters on it. So Frostlass setting up their guys with abilities with damage counters, and then Monkey Dory being able to hand off damage counters onto the guys that don't have abilities so that Braviary can just be spreading damage onto everything. It means there's often times where we'll have 6 prizes remaining and our opponent will be down to like 2 or 3. Which is kind of fine because we're trying to get to a point where we're just wiping their entire board in one go. So that's where the Iron Bundle, bouncing out their attacker, is really useful. Also having things like Counter Catcher that when we're behind on prizes, it's just like, we'll gust up your Bibarel or gust up your something in the bench with 2 or 3 retreat and see if you can find a way around it. Only having 2 copies of Switch and stuff like that in most decks, it's really disruptive and can steal you some games. We do also have other attacking options though, like Hisuian Arcanine, who has Proud Fangs. It does the 30 base damage for 0 energy, but 90 more if any of your bench Pokemon are damaged. So obviously we're damaging our Monkey Dories, our Bibarels, our Manaphies, our Iron Bundles. It makes it so that we do have an attacking option to just take down a big threat in the active spot. So if we see our opponent only has like, yeah, 1 big beat stick, and it's like, if I deal with this, you're going to struggle to get back into the match. That's where Arcanine can come in. And we do have a basic Pokemon that can attack though too, so we're not fully dependent on stage 1s. If we're in a pinch getting something online, we can go into a Veltal, who has Corrosive Winds. This one does take an energy to use, being a dark energy, whereas Braviary and Arcanine are free attackers, but it's pretty sweet. You get to put 2 damage counters on each of your opponent's Pokemon that has any damage counters on it. So like Braviary, but you need an energy, so you're doing 1 less damage counter because you're on a basic. So it's like a slightly scaled down version of it, but quicker to get online. So yeah, honestly, pretty solid. It's rare that it comes up, but just having the option in the deck was very useful. Rest of the deck I feel like is pretty straightforward. Standard supporter cards, Airzu to help get into your evolution pieces, Roxanne, since I said we're likely letting our opponent go down to 2 or 3 prizes, and then it's just like Roxanne, put them down to 2, we get to 6. We're having a good time. They might be struggling. It's nice. Iono, same logic. It basically is a, hey, we draw 6, they draw 2 or 3. Arvin, Boss, Research, Lana, kind of just staples for the format. And then also for some more disruption, we did have Crushing Hammer and Enhanced Hammer, just as ways to be like, hey, they only need like 1 or 2 energy to attack. This buys us a turn to kind of stall them out a little bit and potentially get more damage counters out into them. Also, we did have Handy Fan, so if our opponent ever attacks us, like something like Tor Tera that needs 2 energy to attack, we just bounce one of those onto one of their bench things, then Crushing Hammer their other one. Why am I mentioning Tor Tera? Well, because Jab took down the tournament this week with Tor Tera. So Tor Tera being a terrifying attacker. Evo Press does 50 damage for each of your evolution Pokemon in play. So you basically just flood your board with evolution Pokemon, 6 of them in play, you're doing 300 damage for just 2 energy. You have Grotle to help you get online. Using Sun-Drenched Shell, you can search your deck for a grass Pokemon and put it into your hand. It's not limited to basic or evolution, so it's a great way to just go like, hey, I need to be getting another Torterra line out. Cool, Grotle for a Turtwig. Or I already have a Turtwig on my bench. Cool, I'll go Grotle for another Grotle to evolve that one, and then that Grotle to grab me a Torterra and get this one online, so I have a Grotle for the next turn to keep getting grass Pokemon out of my deck. It's scary, especially because basically every Pokemon in here is grass. Actually, every Pokemon in here is grass. This is a little bit different from the previous list I've seen. So he does have Beautifly in here as a draw engine. It's basically a stage 2 version of Bibarel that draws you 6 cards per turn instead of up to 5. You've got Kricketune boosting the amount of HP that all your grass Pokemon have by 40, excluding itself, making it so Torterra basically has 230 HP. It's a little bit intimidating, and you can push that up even further with Luxurious Cape, adding another 100 on there, so it gets up to 330 HP. You're basically a stage 2 EX Pokemon, but you don't say EX. Yeah, that's a bit nuts. A spicy inclusion he did have for tonight as well was the Toad Scroll line. Previously, we've seen people run this with Rabsca, which prevents bench damage and effects done to your bench Pokemon, but the Toad Scroll makes it so that your opponent can't put cards from their discard pile back into their hand. So it prevents things like, well, Night Stretcher. It's going to prevent things like Lana's Aid. It's going to prevent things like that Heresy Pelipper we talked about earlier. You're going to go to try and make a really good play to get back into the game, and then Toad Scroll goes, no. Make sure you read what this card does. And then your opponent's kind of sat there like, oh, man. And yeah, that happened a few too many times tonight. So honestly, Jab, great call including that in the list. Other cards, pretty standard stuff in here. Airzu helping you get into your evolution Pokemon. So it's basically Airzu, get your Grotle, get some other stuff, Grotle, get your more Grotle and Torterras and just get online really quickly. Arvin, Iono, Boss kind of all go without saying. Gardenia's Vigor, giving you a way that you can quickly accelerate energy out, drawing 2 cards, then you can attach up to 2 grass energy cards from your hand to one of your bench Pokemon. So it's a way that you can get Torterra charged up in 1 turn. You don't have any other ways to accelerate energy out, so it's mostly manually charging up and just relying on the fact that Torterra is really big. Your opponent's likely not going to be one-shotting you, so you can manually attach, and then once you have 1 charged up in the active, you Gardenia and you get a second 1 charged up. Or you have like something with Cheap Retreat, go into the active spot, you switch it out, or like you manually attach 1 and like try and Gardenia for 2 on to a Torterra. And like you've got some plays you can kind of run around with. Something other people have done is like include 1 copy of Rescue Board, so you can chuck that onto Beautifly, so it becomes an easy pivot for Gardenia. But Jab clearly took it and was just like, no. This is the list, we're going for it. And it worked. Like it took down the tournament. So honestly, fair enough. Respect it, man. For stadium cards though, they did include Temple of Sinnoh, which can kind of help out with the amount of special energy dependent decks we've seen running around. Control has been making a pretty big appearance recently, and I think that's why he said he included it. And then Pokemon League HQ, just making it so your opponent's basic Pokemon that try and attack have to pay 1 more energy to be able to attack. Seeing things like that Ancient Box, they're really going to struggle against this. They're reliant on being able to go Sada, attach an energy with this, and then manually attach for turn, and then I want to attack. And then it's like, no, you need a counter stadium or another energy. And they go, oh. And it also meant if they tried to Pelipper to get a stadium or get a supporter card back into hand, Toad Scroll says no, and then this makes it so it's like, well, and you're not going to be attacking because it's way too expensive. So yeah, honestly, busted combo and solid call for where the meta's at right now, Jab. So yeah, congrats on the win tonight, man. That's pretty much it though for the breakdown. I hope you guys did enjoy it. And if you're interested in joining the format, there's a link in the description down below. We host tournaments every Friday night based in Australia Central Time, so I hope the time works for you. Or if you're in North America, we do host a tournament for you guys specifically the first Friday of every month, which is called our North American Special Event. All of these events will count towards points for the season, so I hope to catch you there. It's going to be a best finish limit of 8 for the Australian events and then 1 for the North American Special Event. So if you're not able to make it every single week, or if you join a little bit late into the season, you'll still be able to kind of keep up. There's also going to be a special prize at the end of the season where the top 8 players for the whole series will be participating, and might reveal that a little bit later into the season, probably in like a few weeks. But hope you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure to hit that like button to let me know, and subscribe so you can keep up with the videos. But till next time, stay golden, you Goombas.